So I'm just going to do a quick market review and what I'm looking out for the week ahead. Starting off with ES on the weekly chart. When the week started last week, I was looking to see if we could potentially take out this volume imbalance on the weekly and possibly the buy side being the, should I say, final target. Of course, the week has ended and we weren't really able to do that. Going down to the daily chart, we have this little volume imbalance over here, just above the fair value gap. To be honest, throughout the week, I was using this old fair value gap. I've been using it throughout the week, even though of course there's this one from the 4th of May till the 8th of May. But I'm not going to put that here now because I'm just being transparent and being honest and say that I've been using this one from that time and not this one throughout the week. So we can also see that throughout the week we basically had this range. We had a choppy movement up and down throughout this range going into the daily fair value gap. Now moving down to a 1 hour chart, this was basically the move of what happened from the 1st till the 12th, which is till last week Friday. So as we can see on the 1st, I believe seasonal tendency kicked in and market seemed to sell off, and I thought we were just going to keep falling off and potentially or possibly target this other lower fair value gap on the daily chart at this level right there. So we didn't reach that level, but we did start meandering around this range. And on Wednesday, price shot up into the fair value gap on the daily chart, and immediately I saw price do this, I had a pending order to buy price again, because this fair value gap from the other week that I pointed out that I didn't pull from this previous week's one, I pulled it from the other week, from the 25th of April. This fair value gap now became a zone of importance for me because there were lower time frame fair value gaps, there were market structure shifts, there were multiple new week opening gaps. It was basically a zone of importance to me at this point. So I set a pending order at this level, which was the 4120 round figure. Of course, we see price spiked a bit lower than that, and then I set my take profit to be at the entry of this daily fair value gap, which we got that filled. I also did re-enter another buy position here because I saw these two levels as relative equal highs, and I saw that fair value gap on the daily chart wasn't completely filled. But when I got tapped into this and I saw the price action meandering, and I guess my instinct told me to move the take profit from this fair value gap to the top of this week, and I set a pending order to sell off from that week. So that tapped me out and sold off from there. Then on Friday, we just took out this sell side liquidity, but I believe by just a little bit, because the low of this candlestick is 4111.75 and the low of this one is 411.25. So we are 0.5 handles, half a handle lower from Friday's low. But now talking about the week ahead, what is my bias? My bias is purely based off of seasonal tendency for the month of May. I have a chart here that points out the seasonal tendency for the Dow, and it's a screenshot that I took from one of ICT's video. Yes, I know it's of the Dow, but it's similar to that of the ES, and from what we can see on May, we can see it's clearly a bearish condition, and I believe it's from this peak right here. That's why it's always said to sell in May and walk away. So from the beginning of May till just before the beginning of mid-June, we should be expecting a downtrend. And these are three different averages that has been used over the past few years to pull out the seasonal tendency for the Dow. And generally, even with the updated seasonal tendency, we still expect the same sort of movement to happen. We still expect to see a downside statistically throughout history for the month of May. And I'm expecting I'm using this purely from a macro level to see more downside on the ES. And I want to believe that these highs that were created, these ones over here, will probably be taken out. I'm not sure if it's going to be this week or not, but if you would ask me what I would like to see, I would like to see this daily fair value gap to be completely filled by a solid candlestick, by the body of a solid candlestick, and that would also align with this fair value gap over here, which also aligns with a market structure shift. So we can see the price came this low, made a lower high, and then fell off. Market structure shift would tell us to sell the market at this level, which I highlighted. You can see I delineated this line as a market structure shift and a bearish order block from these candlesticks over there. So I'd like to see price come up to that level and then sell off. So it may not completely fill the daily fair value gap, but I would like to see this order block tapped at the very least before price falls off for the rest of the month. So my bias, my directional bias for this week ahead is sell side. Now I think I have to note that the markets may not sell off from this level. It may not even get up to that fair value gap. It may just decide that the fall off will happen only from here, from this fair value gap here, which also obviously matches up with the rest of these new week opening gaps as well. So that's my directional bias, and at the moment the DXY, the dollar index, is not really going with the way it's known to correlate to the indices. So I'm not going to use that for the for analysis sake, and I'm going to compare with the other three indices. So going to YM, we should see a similar structure as ES, because of course the three averages are supposed to be moving in tandem with each other. The only difference with YM is that we are seeing a more accentuated lower high than ES. You can see it's making deep lower highs, and it's about to actually take out this sell side, which ES hasn't taken out yet. This sell side, it hasn't taken out this sell side. It's not even close to it. But YM, on the other hand, is incredibly close to taking that sell side out. But besides that, the structure is more or less the same, even on a higher time frame. So that being considered, let's go to NQ. Let's go to the Nasdaq to see what comparison that makes. And I think with the Nasdaq, with NQ specifically, I'm going to jump to a weekly chart, start off from a weekly perspective. So we have this liquidity void right here on the 15th of August 2022. Price never traded into this space at all. Of course, we still have this volume imbalance from here all the way to there. We have this massive volume imbalance, but this liquidity void was more sensitive this week, because as we can see, for the first time from last year August, we for the first time traded into it. And going down to lower time frame, we can easily see how price reacts around this level. Let me see if I can. So this is the daily chart. We dipped into this fair value gap, shot up, and finally dipped into this liquidity void before falling off. Of course, we retraced after falling off, but we did tap into it before falling off. Checking the charts now from a 1 hour time frame perspective to see the actual move happen, we can easily also see how the Nasdaq is different from the other three averages. We noted the fact that we were creating lower highs on the other two. You can clearly see that higher highs were being made, highs, and higher lows were also being made in the process, because the magnet, or the drawing liquidity in this case was the liquidity void, which we can see we filled up beautifully and fell off from there. So now that we have achieved that goal and following our seasonal tendency, I would also like to see price come back up into this fair value gap right here, or even better into the liquidity void one more time, but this time only wick into the liquidity void and not past it before falling off to fulfill the rest of the month's seasonal tendency, which is obviously sell side. So just check out sell side. Of course, we can expect ups and downs along the way, but this is what I would like to see for the week ahead. So I will have pending orders set at this fair value gap and another one at the entry of this liquidity void for the Nasdaq. And yes, that's all I have for the week. That's all I'm looking for moving ahead. Of course, anything is to be expected in the market, and I'm open to that. And as a student, I can't really say that I can clearly identify the drawing liquidity, but from a macro level perspective, that's what I'm looking for. I think while we're at the Nasdaq, I think I should point out the fact that if you trade in CFDs, which I am, not being in the US, I'm able to trade NAS 100. Going on lower time frames, like the 5 minutes or the 1 minute, there was a gap. A gap was created, an actual, I believe with some brokers it was a liquidity void, and with others it was, okay, it's not showing in this broker, but on US 500, which is the CFD version of ES mini or S&P 500, we can, it's clearer on that chart. So I'm just going to use that chart to show right there. There's obviously a small liquidity void, but I'm more focused on the entire range of this gap, on the entire thing, and I'm paying more attention to this. I want to believe that, looking at it from the 1 hour chart, I want to believe that price is currently gravitated towards that level before falling off. So if you're not a fair value gap trader or entry trader, this gap is a very clear draw in liquidity, and I believe anybody trading the markets should be able to identify that and see that as a potential entry for the downside directional bias that I have in mind. So we might just use that to fall off. We may not really need to come back into that daily fair value gap before falling off. So I'm noting that, I'm keeping note of that. Looking at the economic calendar, we can see that on Monday, 8:30, we have the Empire State Manufacturing Index. We just have a few data releases. We don't really have anything incredibly market moving, well, except for Friday, which is a speech going on at 11 a.m. I don't think I've actually seen an event at 11 in a while, but at 11 we have a speech going on before lunchtime, and most of it is gonna be in the morning at New York Open, 8:30. So I guess that's all I have for the week ahead. That's all I'm looking for. Potentially looking for sell or short opportunities.